back with the final part 6 of Benedict's Omega Testament. So this is Benedict continuing. He's already passed. He was euthanized by Ganswain. He continues, throughout my painful pontificate, that is, during the 8 years of active office and the nearly 10 years of contemplative office, I was subjected to harsh criticism and humiliation. All my life I was mercilessly subjected to public ridicule, but the most painful humiliation I experienced when I came to Berlin and the German bishops and cardinals refused to welcome me. The other and greatest humiliation I experienced was on the part of my executioners, on the day of my funeral. When I accepted the Peter ministry on April 19, 2005, I had that firm certainty that has always accompanied me, the certainty of the Church's life through the Word of God. At that time, as on other occasions, I spoke out publicly. The words that resounded in my heart were these: Lord, why do you want this from me? And what do you want from me? It is a heavy burden that you have placed on my shoulders, but if you ask me with your word, I will cast out my nets, trusting that you will guide me in spite of all my weaknesses. At the end of my life, I can say that the Lord really guided me, that he was close to me, that I could feel his presence every day, that I had moments of joy and light, but also moments that were not easy. I felt like Peter with the apostles in the boat on the Sea of Galilee. The Lord gave us many days with sun and light breeze, days when there was plenty of fishing. But there were also times when the water was rough and the wind fickle, as in all the history of the Church, and the Lord seemed to be asleep. But I have always known that the Lord was in that boat, and I have always known that the Church's boat is not mine, not ours, but his, and the Lord does not sink him. It is he who guides him, certainly also by the people he has chosen, because he has so willed it. That was and is a certainty that nothing or no one can cloud. And that is why my heart today is full of gratitude to God, because he has never left the whole Church or me without his comfort, his light, and his love. I have loved each of you indiscriminately, with that pastoral love that is the heart of every shepherd, especially of the Bishop of Rome, the successor of the Apostle Peter, every day. I have carried each of you in prayer with the heart of a father. I want my greeting and thanksgiving to reach everyone. I want my heart to expand to the whole world. Now, at the end of my career, I can assure you that the Pope is never alone. The Lord has always been with me. He worked with me. He rested with me. He rejoiced with me at the abundant catch, and he wept with me. All this was experienced by my heart during my pontificate, until the last day of my death. My yes was a total surrender to God and to his work of redemption. It was a yes forever in the Immaculate Heart of Mary. I never left the cross, as many have claimed, but remained at the side of the crucified Lord in a new way, firmly with Mary at the foot of my Lord's cross. Now I want to ask you one last favour. I listen, Your Holiness, Sister Benedicta replied. I want you to publish this in the media without leaving out a detail, as I have written, because everything is of great importance to the Church. Do not be afraid. I understand that it is a delicate mission that I ask of you. Can I trust you? And the sister answers him, Your Holiness, of course you can count on me. I will be your secretary, if you will allow me. And he says to her, do it, and don't be afraid of the possible retaliation this letter may cause. I want it to reach the Vatican Curia and every member of the College of Cardinals. "Holy Father, may I ask you a question?" says the sister, and he replies, "I'm listening. After your death, a spiritual will was published, presumably yours. Is it true that it is yours?" Pope Benedict replied, "As for my spiritual testament, I will tell you that it has been published in an incomplete form. Every pope is free to write a spiritual will. I wanted to write it in 2 parts. I decided to do this because I was in a predicament at the time, and especially because there was a risk of schisms within the church. The situation was so complicated that I even risked being locked up in a real prison if I didn't comply with their demands. The pressure was clearly coming from the United States and the Chinese government. This was the reason I couldn't write a full will and was thinking about writing it in 2 parts. I called the part that was published Alpha, while I called the second part of the will Omega. This second part was burned, along with the letters and the encyclical I had written. This second part is the part I just dictated to you. That is why this document is very important, and it is important that you bring it to light. This task requires your courage." "I understand, Your Holiness," said the sister. "As for my secretary Ganswain, I will tell you that he has again used me to his advantage. I also refer to the book he self-published. Many of his confessions have been conveniently adapted. He's just trying to entertain without saying what he should say. But that's irrelevant now. The real testimony, and more than a testimony, is this document that I have just dictated to you, and that I leave in writing thanks to you, who was the Lord's secretary and is now mine. Before I conclude, I want to send a message of faith to all religious communities through your community. On this day, I invite you who participate in the life and mission of the Church in the world, above all to nurture a faith capable of illuminating your vocation, so that your life may be an evangelical sign of contradiction for a world that is increasingly moving away from God and his love. A world that wants to live without God is a world without hope. Dress, tender children, in Jesus Christ, and carry the weapon of light, as the Apostle Paul admonishes, and remain awake and watchful. Always remember that the joy of consecrated life necessarily goes hand in hand with participation in the cross of Christ. The same was true of Mary, the co-redemptrix. On this feast of Light Mass, I wish that the good news in you will be lived, witnessed, and proclaimed, and that will shine as the word of truth. You are the lightning rod of the Church, and stand firmly at the foot of the cross with Mary, the Mother of God. Tell everyone I'm with God. I go, but I also abide and accompany the Church in her purification as far as Calvary, that she may be adorned with the same glory as the bridegroom. Dear friends, God leads his Church. He always supports it, and especially in different times. Never lose that vision of faith that is the only true vision of the way of the Church and the world. May there always be in the heart of each of you the joyful knowledge that the Lord is with us. He will not disappoint us. He is close to us and fills us with his love. I invoke the eternal protection of Mary, the co-redemptrix, and the Apostle Peter and Paul for the whole Church, and lovingly grant to all the children of God the apostolic blessing. Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen. Your Holiness, said Sister Benedict, and now your signature. He said, write Benedict, pp. 16. So that is the end of Benedict's testament. Just going over now to the private meeting he had with the Antichrist Francis. It was the 23rd of March 2013. And on the right, you can read that yourself. The reaction, of course, from Francis, as Yah was totally expecting. In order to be Antichrist, you have to stand in opposition to the Christ. So this is the truth, the reason that Benedict was locked up. It was reported to us, and the reason that he was silenced. The truth that he told was his announcement of the Christ returned. Benedict the 16th, the last true Pope. Here, of course, just a reminder, this is something that we published from Rome. We called it Antichrist Francis, abomination that makes desolate. Francis the Antichrist, 666 of the Revelation, has denied the coming of the Christ in the flesh told to him by Pope Benedict. From Benedict's Omega Testament, quoting, "Oh, grandfather, I admit I had a lot of fun, but it's time to end the farce. The Catholics are ignorant and mindless, and it's good that they should continue like this, obedient and submissive to everything that is said to them." Right. Now, there's a lot of speculation about the solar eclipse of April the 8th and 9th and its path beginning in Jonah, Texas, and continuing through about 8 towns, all named Nineveh. Reading. You can read all through this. I won't read it all. However, Jesus speaking before he went to the cross and remembering that the evil generation that put him on the cross are all back now. Matthew 12:41, "The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonas." So what do we have going on today? You've just heard in the Omega Testament of Benedict, America and China, not to mention Satan Yahoo in the land of Palestine, which are the Holy Lands, the blood being spilt, can be all laid at the feet of Satan in the seat of Rome. The kingdom flag that flies in our backyard. Yah built his own cross of April 33 AD, and he built the cross that was raised December the 21st, 2018 in our backyard. And our saint who came in at the last, who left a comment over at the site, it's actually called the Sacred Tree, that had published Benedict's Testament. Michael said, "I believe this apparition and see the link below." The link to incristumcredent.com, that until recently you could go and read the apostolic letter penned by Pope Benedict. However, there's surprises going on over there. Oh dear. This was March the 30th, 2013. We were waiting for the showing on RAI TV the documentary of the Shroud of Turin that was organised by Pope Benedict on March the 3rd, 8 days before he began communicating with Yah. And then he learned through a phone call, it was my saying to him that we're waiting for the documentary to start, and he hadn't been informed. It was his production, yet he hadn't been told. What he also didn't tell us was that he had recorded a video recording announcing Yahweh to go before the documentary. So on finding that he hadn't been informed by RAI TV, he phoned the station and they told him that Francis had cancelled that video. And instead he himself recorded Benedict's words, "some useless deal." And it was Alfred Zurab, the other private secretary at the time, who made the phone call under the Antichrist's directions. However, we who know Yah and appreciate Benedict for sacrificing his life to tell the truth, we're looking forward to what's next in Yah's production as he's working behind the scenes.